Welcome back, my dear listeners. Just wanted to pop in here and say that today's story is my hotel has a 13th floor. This is one of the sub parts of it, kind of like the in-between parts between 5 and 6. So we're going to call this part 5.1. And the subtitle of this one is My Daughter Went Missing 8 Years Ago. This one kind of ties some of the story together, so hopefully you guys enjoy. This is once again by Dustin Bragg. He is a fantastic author, and down in the description you'll see a link to a novel that he wrote called Slappy's Diner, and I highly, highly recommend that you check it out. He is a fantastic writer, just trust me on this. Again, this is My Hotel has a 13th Floor, dubbed by me Part 5.1, subtitled My Daughter Went Missing 8 Years Ago. Enjoy. My name is Edgar Harper, and 8 years ago, my daughter went missing. I was born and raised in Washington State, and so was my little girl. We lived in the same small town even after my wife, Linda, passed away when our daughter was only 9. Home. That's what the place was to us. So I was pretty surprised when my kid told me she would be attending college so far away. 35 hours away. 3,000 miles away. The prospect alone, being so far away from the love of my life, terrified me. But that's the problem with parenthood. Your baby eventually has to leave the nest. I wasn't happy about it, but damned if I was going to stand in her way. So, she left for college, giving me a huge warm hug. The last hug she would ever give her daddy. I watched her leave the driveway, and I watched as her car shrank in the distance until it could no longer be seen. Then, I watched the emptiness for a little while longer. Aside from the loneliness and general depression, knowing my only child no longer needed me, things were pretty normal at first. Her classes were going well. She would tell me on our daily calls. She had gotten a job too, seemed to like it. I would smile and tell her that I was proud of her. That was the truth. I always made it a point to tell her that I missed her. I wanted her to know that she could come home at any time she wanted. One day, the phone call didn't come. I was heartbroken, but I knew that she had her own life going on now. Her own job, classes, probably a little boyfriend. I expected the day would come when calling Dad wouldn't be as high on the priority list as I would have wanted. That was okay. But the next day, no call either. The third day, something in my stomach dropped. Something deep inside me broke. I knew. I felt deep down that something was wrong. I called her only to be greeted by a robotic voice telling me that the phone number was invalid. I called again and again, feeling my heart pound harder each time that automated message played. In a panic, I called the local police station. They didn't take my call seriously, assuming that my college-aged daughter had probably just wanted some freedom and had changed her number. I was less than pleasant as I cursed the woman on the other end and hung up. They clearly didn't know my daughter. She wouldn't do that to me. I looked up the number for her school and called. They informed me that she hadn't shown up for any of her classes for the last 3 days. That didn't help, but did disprove the theory from the idiot cops. I called her job next, who assured me they had no record of her ever being employed there. I was crushed. I felt utterly defeated. A wave of emotion plowed through me as I made my way to my little girl's bedroom, exactly as it was when she had left. I picked up one of her stuffed animals that was sitting on the dresser and sat on the bed. I sat there in dead silence, not knowing what to do, not knowing what to think. My contemplation was broken when I heard the mail slot on the front door open. I dreamily glanced over to see a single letter sitting on my floor. I retrieved it before returning to my daughter's bed. I put the stuffed toy next to me as I looked at the envelope. It was, of course, from her. Daddy, things are going well with school. I'm thinking about coming home for summer vacation. I hope you don't mind. It shouldn't be difficult to get time off work. They seem pretty relaxed about that kind of stuff. Just wanted to write you. We talk every day, but I know this is hard for you. I miss you. We'll see each other soon. Maybe I can get you a room if you ever want to come visit me. Love always, L. 5/15/2010. She spoke of her job, yet they had claimed that she was never an employee. I gently placed the letter on the dresser and turned. Something wasn't right. My little girl. Something may have happened. She may be in danger. I picked up the phone and again called her workplace. I asked when my daughter was scheduled to work, only to be told by some asshole named Roger that they had no idea what I was talking about and to stop calling. I felt more anger than I knew I was capable of in that moment, and I hurled my phone against the wall, shattering it into a dozen pieces. I hit my knees and my head was spinning. I was going to have to go there. I was going to have to figure out what was happening. I used the bed to lift myself back up, and my eyes focused on the doll that I'd held moments ago. It was a small, white, stuffed Easter bunny that my wife had gotten for our daughter the year before she died. I felt a bit crazy, not gonna lie. But in that moment, I knew what I was going to do. The next day, I quit my job. I sold what I could, and I loaded up the rest. I journeyed just as my daughter had, all those miles away. I spent 5 years there, scraping by with meager jobs, doing my best to not leave any trace of my existence. I didn't trust this town. I've only been proven right about that. I used cash everywhere. I saved every penny I could, living out of my truck most of the time. You'd be surprised how much money you can amass when you cut out anything that isn't essential. I waited and observed. I watched the city. But mostly, I watched that hotel. My daughter was gone. I had learned that within the first couple of months after arriving. It had hit me hard, of course, but after a year, my attention had turned to finding out what the hell had happened, and I obsessed. I thought about revenge above all else. 3 years ago, I had gathered enough money to begin infiltration. I'd been in and out of the hotel enough to know that the current night worker wouldn't be a problem. He was pretty punctual, with delivering his receipts at 4 a.m. on the dot, and he always took the elevator. This gave me about 10 minutes to do what I needed to do. I'd casually called up the place a week prior to executing my infiltration, posing as an employee of another location with a question. They easily gave up what system they used, and it was cake to learn the basics online. I got a prepaid, reloadable card from the store next. That was basically it. I hopped to the desk when the employee, a guy named Justin, was delivering receipts. Made myself a reservation and checked in using the card I'd loaded my cash on. That was easy. Making myself keys to the room, however, was something I hadn't thought of. It proved to not be an issue, though, as there was a box clearly marked HK Masters that was unlocked. I grabbed one. I'd been in the hotel enough to know to stay off the cameras, and with that, my infiltration was a success. The bunny costume is both a tribute to my daughter and a way to hide my identity. It's proven quite useful, along with my ability to stay out of sight. I quickly learned to avoid the stairs. Over the last couple of years, I've managed to learn about some weird stuff, like the second floor storage closet. I've seen Roger, the owner, enter and never come out. Most importantly, the night guy, Justin. I think he's going to be useful. I couldn't figure anything out about the empty boxes on the second floor, but after encouraging him to check it out, he seemed to be onto something. I followed him to a diner where he met up with some pretty little redhead. I was about to dismiss it as a date when the girl started crying. They noticed me, despite the fact that I was in my civilian clothes, and abruptly left. It wasn't hard to tail Justin, and even easier to follow him yesterday when he met up with the redhead again. They drove around for a long time, but eventually they confirmed my suspicion that they were figuring something out. I kept my distance, though. Watching the two break into a house, I saw in the mailbox the letters spelling Patel. Roger's place. Interesting. I followed after a few minutes, sticking to the shadows, hearing Justin urging the girl to leave. She didn't listen, instead heading down a flight of steps into the abandoned, desolate house. I was looking at the soulless eyes of a drawing on the wall when I heard commotion in the basement. I shot down the stairs to see the two were being attacked by a skinny, rabid-looking guy. The redhead lay unconscious on the floor. Justin had the thing sitting on his chest and choking him. I grabbed the girl and pulled her to safety, returning and punching the gnarly man in the face. I wrapped my arms around Justin and dragged him away as well. The chained figure lunged at me, hissing, and then it screamed as I picked up my flashlight. There, caught in the beam, was the face of my daughter. There was Leah. I choked, fighting tears. The hissing, gnashing man struggled against his chains. I shined the light on him, and with the force of a cannon I laid the bastard out, silencing him. I returned the flashlight to my daughter and closed the gap. I saw the wound. I saw the blood on the man's mouth. I knew that this was the end. Leah, baby girl, I whispered. I had found her. I began to cry. Then, her eyes sprang open, revealing not eyes, but deep black sockets. She jerked her head toward me, bones snapping as she did. I was startled, but my dad brain perceived this as my daughter being alive. I was thrilled, until her flesh melted away and her teeth began chattering. She rapidly shrank, shriveled, and in a second was merely bones. This wasn't her. This wasn't Leah. I knew it in my heart at that moment. I scanned the floor with my light to see more bones scattered. None of these were her. I knew what I had to do about this. I had always kept a few cans of gasoline in my truck in case I ever needed to abandon my life. I looked at the skinny man that I'd knocked out. I hated him for what he'd done to my baby, even if it really wasn't Leah. Moreover, I hated Roger. He had done this. I carried Justin and the girl upstairs and laid them on the floor. By the time I had started to drench the place in gas, Justin was coming too. I think he understood that this was my business. We shared a look, then he scooped up his girl and left. We didn't say a word. I struck a match and we walked out together. They went back to their car. I, however, am going to find Roger. I'm going to get my answers. I'm going to learn the truth about what happened to Leah. So that, my dear listeners, was My Hotel is a 13th Floor, Part 5.1. My daughter went missing 8 years ago. You now know that the bunny man was Leah's father. That was one of those twists that I didn't expect. I kind of saw the bunny man as part of the 13th floor, something the hotel had manifested. Obviously, he's a real person, and obviously, he's out for revenge. There's 2 parts left of this, so we're almost at the end. And I'm kind of sad that we're almost at the end, but I'm happy to wrap it up so you guys can see how it goes. So the story, again, is by Dustin Bragg, and he is a fantastic author. Down in the description, you'll see a link to an Amazon page where he sells his novel. I highly, highly recommend you go check that out, because this man is a fantastic author. I genuinely would suggest supporting him. Also, down in the description, you'll find links to my Twitter, subreddit, Facebook, and a page where you can submit a story to me if you have something you would like me to read. And I don't think I have anything else to add to this, because I said everything. So all that said, hope you all have a fantastic day, have a wonderful week, and we'll see you on the next video. But until then, sleep well.